What's up, y'all? This is Angela.
Hey, and this is Daria.
And this is Where Are My Keys?
Where they at, y'all?
Yay.
All right, so this week we want to take a pause from our regularly scheduled program. And we want to just pause and talk about mental health. This week, Monday, Mental Health Awareness Day. So we would just wanted to take some time out and kind of focus on that because it is important as we go about our everyday life.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to kick off the conversation to discuss why I decided to seek therapy. So I am a sexual abuse survivor. This is something that happened to me when I was a child by somebody that was in the household. And I had no idea how it impacted me as an adult until I was good and grown. So when you suppress traumatic experiences like that, it does impact you. It triggers you in ways that you may not be able to recognize because you're not looking for it. You're not aware of the triggers. You're not aware of the secondary behaviors that might manifest due to the traumatic experience. And I am a firm believer that Black people in general are predisposed to PTSD just by being Black. The things that we experience, the traumas, the interactions, the microaggressions, all of it. And there was a person that, a doctor, PhD, that introduced the idea of it even being in our DNA. So generations, centuries worth of trauma, oppression, all of those things. So it's just super important that, one, that we seek help, that we don't make excuses for it anymore. And seek professional therapy.
And I just to kind of touch on what you were talking about as far as it being generational, you know, for so long, we swept things under the rug. You know, we didn't talk about it in our family. If something happened, it just kind of stayed amongst those people who were having that conversation. Now, like, everybody's a little bit more aware of mental health and the things that we need to do to make sure that we are healthy and whole for, you know, other people, and that we're not sweeping things under the rug so that those patterns and behaviors
can thrive.
Because
when you think about, if my great grandmother had 10 children, which these are real numbers, but I don't know what kind of traumas Black people typically don't talk about stuff like that. So if we open up the conversation to our experiences and how it affected us and how it made us feel, we don't talk about feelings. So if my great grandmother had 10 children, my grandmother had 6 children, my mom had 1, and I had 3. How many people is that that affects? Now I have 3 sons, but if I had girls, that's not to say that men aren't preyed upon or have these kind of experiences or traumas. But I do feel that if I had girls, I would be a nutcase. I would be losing my mind thinking that, you know, we had faculty at our high school that was trying to push up on the girls. But back then we didn't think that that was pedophilia. We didn't think that that was wrong or weird. And there's something wrong in that. But
I remember being in probably high school, and at that time, not necessarily I would say desired an older man, but if an older man approached me, I wouldn't turn. I was lying about my age. You know what I mean? I remember being 16 and there was a 20-year-old that I was having a conversation with. But I lied and told him, you know, I was 18 or something like that. So again, you know, not maybe having that conversation or I don't know, but we didn't think it was odd. I didn't think it was strange. I knew something was wrong if I had to lie about my age, though. You know what I mean? I was smart enough to know as a kid that I shouldn't be dating this grown man, but it was probably something intriguing about dating a grown man. You know what I mean? So, there is some, and then it's, again, media. It is embedded in the message that this is normal. Hello, Robert Kelly, looking at you.
that there's nothing wrong with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you must, you're sexy, you're grown, you're mature for your age.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a tag with that disclosure for your age, you pretty for a dark girl, you smart for a woman. It's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Pause. Yeah. Let's pick that apart.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to because you kind of touched on as far as your experiences and why you decided to seek therapy, and you said something. You said that you at some point in your adulthood, or at what point did you realize what happened to you as a kid was affecting like everyday life, and I need to talk to somebody, like between that balance of being a kid, something happening, and then deciding like I need to seek therapy.
Okay, so I used to deliver mail, and I just remember like on every break I was getting deeper and deeper into the Bible. And there was a breakthrough, and there was an understanding that this was not my fault, and the truth, what really happened, needed to be said and acknowledged. Now, I'll say this: when you are healing, you are going to have to come to terms with not getting an apology that you deserve. That is detrimental to your breakthrough and your healing. You, more than likely, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the apology that you deserve, and you're going to have to be okay with that.
Was that something that your therapist helped you to come to the understanding of, or was that something? Okay.
No. And it's okay to have God, but God put therapists here.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, again, in the Black community, we think we're going to pray it away. We think we're going to fast it away. But there comes a time when you have to introduce professionals into the situation, people who are trained in the science of thinking and emotion and brain intelligence, emotional intelligence. So I got in contact. I probably went through maybe 3 therapists before I found the right fit. That's another key part. Everything ain't for everybody. Okay?
Right.
So the therapist that I ended up with, that I really feel like my brain was open and was power washed, her name is Holly Carson.
St. Louis?
Yes. St. Charles.
St. Charles.
Okay. Yeah. So it felt really good for somebody to acknowledge that, one, it wasn't my fault. As a child, I had to extend a lot of grace to adults, and I'm have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And the second thing was recognizing those triggers. So a lot of secondary behaviors that I started to manifest was promiscuity and alcoholism. Okay. So way back in the 1900s.
I'm not that old. That sounds old.
We like to try to rename it and validate it by saying this is my feminine power. I'm taking agency back over my body.
I think people still do that.
It's trauma. At the end of the day, it's trauma.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And we need to be able to call a thing a thing. Yeah. We are doing ourselves a disservice. We are tearing ourselves down by calling it anything other than what it is. It is trauma.
Yeah.
Okay?
Agreed. I wanted to go back to what you said about therapists, and then the fact that you went through 3 different ones before you found the right one, because I think, so I'm a nurse practitioner, and I hear that a lot when I'm talking to patients about, primary care, what have you. And so when we touch on topics like depression, anxiety, and things that are going on in life, I'm an advocate for therapy. So I always recommend that. And I do get that sometimes, and not just from my patients, but also from family, friends. They'll say like, well, I tried a therapist and she ended up telling me her problems. I was helping her through her problems, or, whatever just did not work out. And so that turned them away and turned them off of wanting to seek therapy, right? Because one person didn't work out. But I always tell people it's okay to seek and find and continue to look for somebody who's going to be a match. Same thing with your doctor. If you don't like your primary care doctor, just because your mama went to him or you've been going to him for 10 years, you don't have to stay with them. Right. It's trial and error, and people change, we change, things change, and so you may have to look for something else. So I think I wanted to just make sure that we made that clear, that that's very important, that you can find somebody that's going to work out for you. Okay. And then what else did you touch on? The behaviors and the trauma response, because we do that. And sometimes I think, and I'm not a mental health professional, neither is Angie.
Correct.
But again, being in the medical field, we do tackle those behaviors and those destructive behaviors such as alcoholism, substance abuse, because we're trying to self-medicate, or we're trying to, it takes us somewhere else. So we're, don't have to deal with the reality, and things like that. So seeking a therapist, or if you recognize that you have those behaviors, that aren't conducive to health, life, family, happiness, joy, then you know that there's the opportunity to seek, mental health. And a lot of people, I think, do not, again, recognize that something is wrong, because we've been kind of taught to, if we're feeling down about something, okay, but we got to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and keep it moving. But we don't get to process what it was that was causing us to feel this way. And so I think there's a cycle, and then we're just going on, and life happens. And then, you know what I mean? At some point, something may happen to where it halts us. And then we can't move forward. So I just wanted to recognize that as a primary, or as a nurse practitioner, we do screenings for depression, anxiety. And so there are a couple of questions that I just wanted to put out there that we do ask people, just to see where they are. So for not the behaviors, for the experience or the feeling, if you felt these things like in the last 2 weeks, okay? Because life happens, and I tell people that all the time. Life happens. If there's a situation that happens, we might get down, depressed, what have you, and then that moment passes, and then we're fine. But if these things continue to happen, and then it's been over 2 weeks, so if you have felt down, depressed, or hopeless in the last 2 weeks, and then the other one is if you've lost or have little interest in pleasure in things that you like to do, that you normally like to read, you normally like to hang out with your friends, or you normally like to, do whatever, and you've seemingly lost interest, then that may be a sign that you have some issues with depression. And then there's a few more questions, things like poor appetite, overeating, trouble concentrating on things, feeling like you're a failure, feeling like you've let yourself or your family down, trouble sleeping, falling asleep, staying asleep. And then, of course, if you have any thoughts of harming yourself or harming someone else, those are like telltale signs that you need to seek therapy.
Ooh, man, that is a slippery slope. I mean, just in those questions, it is so easy for I can only speak from my own experience, because I've only been a black woman in this life. But those questions, losing interest, feeling like you're letting your family down, falling asleep. Okay, we as black women, black mothers, spouses, partners, that is something that we grapple with doggone there every single day, because we don't, a lot of times, we talked about this in previous episodes, we lose us. So we don't even know what we like anymore.
Right.
Our decisions are based on what the kids doing, what the kids got going on, what my husband needs. You know what I'm saying? So we constantly pour into other people, and we're so tired because we have all these people. We haven't even touched on the people outside of the house that depend on us. Right. Like our jobs, our parents,
the church,
grandparents. So we don't have time for ourselves to even recognize who we are and what we need. In order to have anything to give. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. So, I was going to say, and that's why, we had a conversation offline. That's why it's good to even seek therapy, even if you don't have any issues, but for maintenance. Because again, like Angie said, if we're going through just life and doing what we normally do, we may not recognize. But if we're constantly before someone like our therapist, who, we've had an interaction, he or she knows, what have you, then she may be able to say, okay, hold on, pause. You just said A, B, C, and D. I think we should focus on that. Something's going on there. And then you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't even, because life is happening and I'm just, it's good. So I think, just to kind of take that stigma away from the fact that mental health is just for if you're crazy. That's what it used to be.
Right.
If you're crazy,
white, if you're rich.
Mental health is or therapy is for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody, whether you're doing great or whether you're down in the valley.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you've experienced traumatic experiences or had a situation where you were taken advantage of, we have a self or a mechanism to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's that fight or flight response.
Exactly. So if you suppressed the actual experience or the memory, you may not even recognize that you've done so just so you can live, so that you can function on a regular basis. Because again, you have all these people depending on you, so there's no time for the breakdown. There's no time to breathe. There's no time to self-care.
Yeah. And I think the important thing too is, like you said, you do have so many people that are depending on you if you do have, those roles that Angie spoke of. So it's important to be healthy for them. So if you feel like, you can't get up out the bed and you can't get so-and-so ready for school and you don't feel like cooking dinner and, just those things, there something's going on and you need to probably seek some help. Yeah. And nothing, I think for a long time we, if it was a psychiatrist or, psychology, there, psychiatrists and psychologists, immediately people was just like, oh, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with him? But it's not, it's so different and it's so, I don't know. Again, I just like the direction that the world has taken because everybody talks about mental health now. And again, whether it's good, whether it's bad, everybody should, probably tap into that.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be an expression of sad.
Yeah.
Or an emotion of sadness. Sometimes we are lashing out at people that don't even deserve it because of those exact same reasons. We're triggered and we don't understand why, because we don't understand ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to evolve and adapt in order to grow and to be better and to be available to people. But if we're not given the proper resources and the access to help, then we're just giving life to these bad behaviors and these negative behaviors. And it has to stop.
It does.
It has to stop. We're Black people in general are just an underserved population. So just acknowledging that we need the help is a step in the right direction.
And I like that because you said we're, just an underserved population. I like the fact that there are now like so many, and not just in the Black community, but there are, therapists of all nationalities, races and nationalities. But it's important to, because I think for most Black people, they need to need somebody that identifies with them. So I like that there are so many, like I have so many sorors and friends who are therapists and they look like me. They're women, they're Black, and then there are men who are therapists as well, and that might be important for.
That's extraordinarily important. Okay, so again, I have 3 sons, and one of my sons was going through some stuff, right? At the time, so this was maybe, let's see, this was maybe seven years ago, maybe tops. I tried to find him a Black male therapist. There was 3 in the St. Louis area that were actually licensed to practice in the state of Missouri. 3.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
man. But there are, like I said, there are many now, and there are opportunities to find those if you're looking for an African American therapist. So one of the somebody gave me a website and it's called Therapy for Black Girls. And with Therapy for Black Girls, you can put in your zip code in there and it'll tell you a list of therapists that are in like a certain mile radius within your home. So on that website, their picture is on there. where they practice, what type of therapy that they specialize in. It gives a little blurb about themselves and why maybe they went into, becoming a therapist. So you can get a lot of like the big picture from them, from there, and you can kind of pick and choose. And like I said, and like we said before, you choose somebody, maybe do a consultation. If you didn't feel like it's a match, find the next one on that list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's important. I think, grieving, whether it's grieving the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a career, there's multifaceted,
And I'll say this. I'll say this. Grieving looks different for different people.
Absolutely.
All right.
Everybody does not feel the same way.
So don't allow anyone to tell you how to grieve or how long to grieve. It looks different for everybody. And I had to come to terms with that. Shout out to my mother-in-law. She's going to forever be my mother-in-law. So whoever's in the picture, she will forever be my mother-in-law.
I know that's right.
But she has never, ever made me feel less than. For the trash decisions I made, she's always allowed me to fail forward. She never made me feel a certain way for living my life to the best of my capability. Because you can only do as good as you know how to do in the moment.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I like that because, so we're talking about professionals, right? Therapists and things like that. But I think having a good support system, is important as well, because again, we're having this conversation, but everybody may or may not feel comfortable going out and stepping out and speaking to a therapist. Now, your mama, your mother-in-law, your sister, your brother, whoever, they're not an alternative to therapy, but if you have...
Say that.
If you have a support system, it's good to lean in to that so that you're just not battling those things alone.
Exactly.
Because I believe, I can't remember if we talked about this now, but one of those things that we do is we keep it inside. And then all those things over time bottles up, and then we're attacking people.
It begins to tear you down
apart.
Like physically. There's like evidence of it.
Yes. And it can manifest physically. High blood pressure, heart disease, all of those things. So if you have a good support system, somebody that you can talk to, somebody that's going to love you unconditionally and, like Angie said, allow you to fail forward. Failing is okay as long as you get back up and try it again, but you need somebody to tell you that, so that you're just not at home in a corner and things are just kind of compounding and getting worse, and you're not seeking that help and seeking that therapy, and then those things begin to manifest in ways that are, not good.
Something else I wanted to add to that is when you are seeking mental help assistance, it's going to take a couple sessions for you to figure out if you guys jive. Okay. I want you to give each person an opportunity. Maybe.
No, seriously. So let me, full disclosure, I don't have a therapist. I've never seen a therapist. But I need these tips because again, I always talk about fear, and I hate saying the word fear, but that's one of my fears, not being able to find somebody that I jive with, right? So that has prevented me from even calling somebody just to figure out if we jive. Like, my mind is whatever. So I think that's important. So if I go to this first meeting and I feel like, okay, this first one-on-one wasn't a good one, I should try it again. Yeah,
I would say 2 to 3 sessions for you to know for certain that this is or is not a match.
Okay.
All right. Second tip I have, make sure you giving full disclosure. You completely emotionally naked. Okay.
So don't come everything.
You absolutely should. It's patient doctor confidentiality. Just like if you all up in your business.
Right. I mean, because why? Why would you go in there and like
people do
lie
it.
Or put it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because it's not going to help you in the long run.
Exactly. So that's like perfect analogy. This is no different than going to your physician. If you go in there with chest pains, you ain't gonna tell them that I've been constipated for 5 days. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna go in there giving false information so he can give you a false diagnosis. Trash in, trash out.
Some people do that though.
Oh my God!
Don't be that part. Don't be that patient.
Please don't.
Tell me if you have a chest pain because I want to make sure it's not your heart.
Okay? Right. Yeah, just full disclosure. Make sure you go in
Yeah.
there full disclosure.
Okay.
This is probably one of the few times that you get to say exactly what you want to say without retribution.
Okay.
Okay? And I ain't gonna lie, excuse me, but shit is hard. When you go in there for the first time really unloading everything, you're gonna be weak.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie. You're gonna be weak. Okay? But in the long term, you are going to feel amazing when you find the right therapist and the right person to speak into you. You are going to feel like a new person. The color's gonna be bright when you step. Listen, this is what my experience was when I found my therapist. Okay. I don't go to Holly anymore, but this is the person that brought me to that space. When I left her office after I had my breakthrough, I promise you, the colors were brighter, sounds were clearer. You couldn't tell me who I was. I know who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I'm not. Listen, this is what you want. It's going to be very hard. And I'm not going to lie, full disclosure, it is going to be hard because after years of thinking that you could have prevented this, that all the things that happened from that instance, the very first occurrence, until you have that breakthrough where it was your fault, for somebody to believe you that that you are not a victim and they believe you, changes everything. It turns everything on its head, which is the truth. It's not your fault. You couldn't have prevented it, but you will have to extend grace to certain people because they didn't know what they didn't know.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that because I think I hear oftentimes, like for people who are our age, that their parents failed them in a sense, and that may be true, but I think they did the best that they did with what they had and what they knew, what they learned, and what they were taught or lack thereof. Yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah. And it may not, that may not happen for you tomorrow. Like you may not be able to allow and extend grace to them tomorrow, but maybe in the future. And I think that, that is okay.
Yeah. But that's just a little something to expect, and what my experience has been. Yeah. And I'm just really grateful that I did have that epiphany, and I did have the tenacity to keep going, even when it hurt me, even when no one believed me, even when nobody understood. You know what I mean? So yeah, please, we're gonna provide some resources in the caption, and I hope that this episode helps somebody. Yeah. Okay.
And I will say that I always tell people, if you don't have any reference as far as a therapist, you can always start with your primary care doctor. They can always refer you to a therapist. You can also contact your insurance plan, number on the back of your card, call them, asking for some therapists that are in your area. Therapy for Black girls is another resource. You can Google that. That one's very easy. And it also tells you on there what health plans that those people accept
that's
as
good.
well.
That's good information.
And then for the most health plans, the behavioral health benefits are free, so you don't even have to pay to go and see the therapist, but you got to check with your health plan for that one. So just be mindful of those things, and like Angie said, we'll put some things in the comments or in the caption so that you can seek some therapists. And we're here in Missouri, so we may give you some resources for some therapists in Missouri as well.
Yeah, and some other things that you can do to kind of curb anxiety, which can also be one of those things that pop up when you're triggered. Exercise. Make sure you're getting some movement in. Make sure that you are getting a proper amount of sunshine.
Yes. And I was going to say that because fall is coming around, we're going to have less sun. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to, because that seasonal affective disorder, which is when it's darker, you're tend to lean or be more depressed or have some issues with depression. So just pay attention and be focused on those things as the winter and the fall comes. Perfect time to find a therapist.
And drink water, as always. So you can stay young and youthful looking.
Hydration. All right, well, we love y'all. We hope y'all, glean from this topic. Just wanted to pause for a little bit and take care of some mental health.
Yeah, we need us. We all we got.
Yep.
All right.
Love y'all.
Love y'all. Be good.
All right.